All right, let's get right into it. Picture this: the remote Ural Mountains in Russia, dead of winter, 1959. It's the setting for what is seriously one of the most chilling and just completely baffling unsolved mysteries of the last century. People have been arguing about what happened on that mountain for over 60 years, and today we're going to break down the facts, the evidence, and all the wild theories. And right here, this is the absolute core of the mystery. This one single, terrifying detail is what makes the whole thing so impossible to understand. Think about it. Why would anyone in the middle of a blizzard cut their way out of their only shelter? It just makes no sense. So to really get how bizarre this is, we've got to rewind, because before it was a mystery, it was just a trip. A really tough but exciting expedition started by a group of incredibly smart and capable young people. We're talking about 9 hikers, 8 men and 1 woman. Most of them were students or recent grads from a top engineering school. And they weren't strangers. This was a close group of friends who really knew what they were doing in the mountains. And this is a really crucial point. These weren't amateurs. They were all certified for seriously difficult treks. They were taking on a grade 3, which was basically the highest difficulty level you could do back then. So this isn't a group you'd expect to make some kind of rookie mistake. Not at all. The plan itself was pretty simple. They start the trek at the end of January, they make their camp on February 1st, and they were supposed to be back and send a telegram to their sports club by February 12th. But that telegram, it never arrived. After days went by with no word, a search party was finally sent out. And what they found on the slopes of Kholat Syagul, which, by the way, ominously translates to Dead Mountain in the local Mansi language, wasn't a rescue scene. It was the start of a riddle. The scene the search party stumbled upon was just unreal. Their tent was completely abandoned, flattened, and sliced open from the inside. All their gear, their warm coats, their boots, food, everything you'd need to survive was just left there. They found 9 sets of footprints leading away from the tent, some just in socks, some even barefoot. But get this, there were no signs of a fight, no signs of anyone else ever being there. And this is the question that has just haunted everyone who looks into this case. What on earth could have terrified this group of pros so badly that they'd rather face a certain freezing death outside than whatever was happening inside that tent? So the search party followed those footprints. They led away from the camp, down the slope, towards the edge of a forest. And it's here that the mystery just gets deeper and the real tragedy begins to unfold. I mean, just try to imagine this. A full kilometer, that's over half a mile, away from their tent, in temperatures hovering around -30 Celsius. And they're in their underwear. They'd managed to start a small fire, but it wasn't enough. The cause of death? Hypothermia. A little later, the search party found 3 more bodies. One of them was Igor Dyatlov, the group's leader. And just based on where they were found, it looked like they were making a desperate, final attempt to get back to the safety of the tent. They had also frozen to death. So at this point, it's a horrible tragedy. But maybe, just maybe, you could find a way to explain it. 5 down. But there were still 4 people missing. For 2 long, agonizing months, the search went on. The snow was incredibly deep, and nobody had a clue what happened to the rest of the team. And it turns out, the most shocking discoveries were still to come. Finally, in May, when the snow started to melt, they found them. The last 4 hikers were discovered in a ravine, buried under more than 12 feet of snow. And this is where the investigation just took a massive turn. Because these 4, they didn't die of hypothermia. They died from horrific, violent trauma. The injuries were just brutal. We're talking massive chest fractures, a crushed skull. One of the hikers was even missing her tongue. But the strangest detail, the thing that stumped the medical examiner, was that there were no significant external wounds. No cuts, no bruises on the skin. The lead medical investigator literally said the force that caused these injuries was like being hit by a car. So how do you get car crash level internal damage, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, without a single major wound on the outside of the body? It just seemed completely impossible. So you've got this pile of evidence that just completely contradicts itself. It's no wonder that investigators and now generations of internet sleuths have been trying to put the pieces together. Let's walk through some of the main theories. Okay, so the first one, and the one that was the official explanation in Russia for a long time, is a slab avalanche. The idea is a huge, heavy plate of snow slid down onto the tent in the middle of the night. That would explain the panic and why they had to cut their way out. And maybe it could explain the injuries. Then you have the theory that a lot of people are drawn to, a military cover-up. What if the hikers stumbled onto something they weren't supposed to see? A secret Soviet weapons test, maybe? Other campers in the area actually reported seeing weird orange spheres in the sky around the same time. A powerful explosion could explain the injuries and why the whole case was kept so secret. But the problem is, neither of these theories really fits all the facts. For the avalanche theory, the injuries seem way too specific and severe, and the tracks looked like they walked, not ran from the tent. And for the military theory, as juicy as it is, there's a huge problem. Zero physical evidence. No crater, no bomb fragments, nothing. So that brings us to a more out there theory, but one that has some science behind it. Infrasound. It's possible that the shape of the mountain created a rare weather event that generates sound waves so low-pitched that you can't hear them, but you can feel them. And this infrasound can apparently cause intense, irrational panic, a feeling of pure terror that could absolutely make you do something crazy, like flee your tent. So you've got avalanches, secret weapons, invisible panic-inducing sound waves. After all these years and all these theories, where do we actually land on this? What's the final word? Well, this was the official conclusion from the original Soviet investigation. A compelling natural force. I mean, what does that even mean? It's an answer that answers absolutely nothing. It's basically the investigators throwing up their hands and saying, we have no idea. And that vague answer, combined with the fact that they immediately classified the case files and hid them from the public for decades, well, that just poured gasoline on all the conspiracy theories. Even though Russian authorities reopened the case recently and landed on avalanche again, for most people, it just doesn't explain all the weirdness. And so we end up right back where we started, with this one single haunting question. Whatever happened on Dead Mountain that night, whether it was natural, man-made, or something else entirely, it remains one of the most profound and genuinely terrifying unsolved mysteries of our time.